guns, grenades, helicopters. Arms are a $60 billion a year business with the potential to escalate conflicts and contribute to atrocities. And right now, it's an open market.
I'm speaking to the whole American population.
Femi Karula wants to change that. He fled Syria in 1992 after he was jailed and beaten for speaking out against the government. Now he's joining other activists, campaigning for the first ever arms trade treaty.
I want every human being anywhere to live his life without the threat of being tortured because a bad guy has a weapon.
Activists are handing out bananas to make the point that while fruits and bottled water are subject to strict international trade rules, conventional weapons can go around the globe with few constraints, and this allows them to get into the hands of dictators, armed groups, and human rights abusers.
Treaty supporters point to Russian arms sales to Syria as the most vivid example of the need to regulate the arms trade. As it's proposed, the treaty would forbid the sale of weapons to countries likely to use them to commit human rights abuses. But it could also prevent arming rebel groups, as U.S. allies Saudi Arabia and Qatar have been accused of in the conflict in Syria. Opponents argue governments will always want to shape world events with weapons.
How is the treaty going to force them to behave any differently than they already do? It can create all the requirements in the world for them to behave better, but if there is no way for the treaty to actually force them to act better, then they're probably not going to act any better.
For the first time, the United States, the world's largest exporter of weapons, is prepared to sign on to the treaty. Proponents acknowledge the real battle will be implementation.
Is judgment in how these standards are applied in a situation, for example, like Bahrain, where we have real concerns about how U.S. weapons are being used. We think the standards being applied are too lax.
But first, international standards have to be made law.
The bad people will find always ways to get what they want. But this treaty will hinder them. It will make their job harder.
And that, says Karula, is the very least the international community can do for the Syrian people and all those living under the threat of violence. Kristen, Saloomey, Al Jazeera, the United Nations.